Welcome to Skin Deep with me, registered nurse Christine Keller. Everywhere we look right now, people are talking about weight loss injections. Ozempic, Wegovy, Mounjaro. It is known as the miracle medication. It is all over social media. Celebrities are using it. Jou buurvrou gebruikt it. And we want to get to the root of this. Behind all the buzz is something very important all of us should understand. These medications weren't designed for weight loss. They were created for diabetes, a chronic illness that implicates people worldwide. So today, I am fortunate to have Dr. Jacques van Staden here with me, and we are going to get into what is diabetes, and also why all of these GLP-1 medications are making headlines. And most importantly, what you need to know before jumping on the bandwagon. This conversation is about understanding the science and, most importantly, get clear evidence-based answers. Dr. Jacques van Staden, thank you for being here with us today. I appreciate it a lot. Ek weet jy wil eintlik op 'n fiets gaan spring ook. Thank you, but I want to know before we jump in, who is Dr. Jacques van Staden and why is diabetes your focus in your practice?
Thanks for the invite, and a very interesting topic that we're going to discuss today. Diabetes, dealing with it for 17 years. It was more by God's will that I ended up there. It's one of those things, never say never. Didn't want to, said I'll never become a GP. Just wanted to specialize, but then he had his way. Did peds and internal med in my comm service, and went into private practice after that. The diabetes thing started off, and never then knew that we would be 17 years down the line where it's become a speciality almost on its own. I don't think anybody could foretell that diabetology would be needed. And it just shows you, yes, there's been evolution in us as humans, but to the point where we have created chronic disease.
Definitely.
So basically, the love for type 1 diabetes and managing children and its complexity, and then also metabolic disease and obesity as part of that. We've got a very strong family history of diabetes, unfortunately. That's genetic. So dealing with your aunts and your mother, and it hits home because the complications are real. And it is prevention is better than cure. And sort of that's the main aim is, can't we prevent a storm than just keep trying to keep managing it. It's got its challenges.
For the listeners who may not fully understand what is diabetes, and then also the difference between type 1 and type 2.
Diabetes is a chronic metabolic disease. So we need to know that it is chronic. There is no one size fits all, unfortunately. And I think the classification just between 1 and 2 is a little bit simplified today.
Yes.
In the past, we just put either someone uses insulin, they're insulin dependent, or non-insulin dependent. But now we know that it is much more complex. Type 1s, just for simplicity, these are our children. It's an autoimmune condition. So literally, they have a genetic predisposition for the immunity that has a trigger. So they have a gene that sits in the immune system, and if there's a trigger that triggers that response, the body sort of goes in overdrive, then destroys, unfortunately, the beta cells in the pancreas because of this external trigger. So there is always an external component to the underlying possibility of a genetic system that is vulnerable, but that is related to the immune system.
Okay.
The pancreas is unfortunately what gets knocked, or what is the victim in this case. And without beta cells, you don't produce insulin, and these children and even young adults are dependent on insulin lifelong from the start. And they normally get diagnosed very suddenly. They land up in ER. And we can also see these group, we call them the 1.5s, and this is where the lines start getting blurry, as LADAs. We call that latent autoimmune diabetes of adulthood. So we see adults being misdiagnosed. They're actually not type 2s, they are actually type 1s, but a slower autoimmune process. And they all also eventually, maybe in the beginning, they can be on oral medication or even some of our wonder drugs, but eventually they all land up on insulin anyway. And then the other group is our type 2s. And yes, that is a lifestyle condition. There's a big genetic component to that. But it is not only genetics that play a role, it is environment. Because we see this, what the parents eat, the children eat, and the children become also overweight. And then that over a long period of time leads them to develop diabetes as well, because it's never fixed at the root. So, and people normally start off with also oral medication and then might, as the disease progress, either because of insulin resistance or because of the fact that the body cannot utilize its own insulin very well, might also end up on insulin. But not all needs to go that. So this is a beautiful thing about a true type 2 diabetic. A true type 2 diabetic, if you catch them early, is reversible. And this is where we come with GLP-1s and GIPs and all these incretin hormones that we can give patients, is the reversibility of the condition.
For type 2.
For type 2, yes. Not for type 1. And I think this is a big thing. A lot of people think that GLP-1s is a treatment for reversibility of type 1 diabetes, and that is completely false.
What are the early signs and symptoms? I think this question is more related, to both type 1 and type 2.
Yeah, so both will present with some basic symptoms. There's a little bit of difference. Sometimes the symptoms are actually very subtle. So like for type 1, a child, the parents will see that he's maybe lethargic, he's a little bit, becomes very tired easily, he's urinating a lot, he's very thirsty, he's always hungry, and loses weight. For the type 2, it might be very subtle. For years, we see that many type 2s get used to higher blood glucose. So like, because it's a progressive disease of lifestyle and obesity, it's not like one morning you wake up and all of a sudden now you're type 2 diabetic. Your fasted blood glucose and insulin resistance goes up little bit by little bit. You wake up with a fasted sugar where it should be, let's say, below 6. Now all of a sudden it's 6.1, then 6.5. And so progressively, you also get like the little frog in the hot water, you get cooked.
Yes.
Versus just throwing the frog into boiling water and it jumps out. So these patients will also have those symptoms, recurrent infections. They will have also can urinate a lot, maybe more at night. Sometimes they are excessively tired, but they will have sometimes no symptoms because they are used to feeling that way.
Exactly.
They just think, oh, this is old age.
This is how I feel.
Yeah. And then at a random check, maybe at the clinic or at their doctor or with the nurse, a random blood glucose, oh, your sugar's 15 or steady. Oh, but doctor, I'm not a diabetic. And well, you are a diabetic now.
Yes.
And there needs to be some treatment given. So it's very subtle, but the big difference is that our type 1s and even LADAs will have some weight loss associated with it. Because
in a short period of time.
Yes, in a short period, because they become catabolic, versus the type 2, normally they are morbidly obese or have some form of obesity, sedentary lifestyle, and which is the precipitator.
About semaglutide and GLP-1 medications. Before we go deeper into that, I would like to know for our listeners, and this is something very important, what actually makes a medical study credible, and when is it trustworthy, and when is it published in a medical journal?
That is a very good point, because everything that we do in modern medicine, everything, any drug that a doctor scripts has to go through what we call good clinical practice protocol and clinical trials. Any of the GLP-1s, GIPs, even from blood pressure medication, cholesterol medication, everything is randomized, double-blind normally, or blind randomized clinical control trials. There is an ethical board that sits. There needs to be non-biased. It is an extreme process, and it's also open to the public. It's always there's an online website that one can go and check how far is this clinical study, how many people, and it needs to be a big group. It needs to be representative of a large entity. Also, males and females need to be balanced. So, clinical trials today is the backbone of modern medicine, because we need to know what is is the drug good?
Yes.
Is the clinical trial done in an ethical way? Because remember, if it's a blind study, no one knows if you are getting the medication or a placebo. And this is how we know that the drugs work, because we see that one group will maybe have benefits and the other group does not have the benefits. And this is again peer-reviewed, and we need to understand that peer review means that people that are not have no interest in, for instance, a pharmaceutical company, they will review this paper and scrutinize it. And then that gets published in a credible journal after being peer-reviewed. Also, meta-analysis gets done. But we must not only look at pharmaceutical industry clinical trials. We also need to look at smaller trials, because obviously a pharmaceutical industry trial is driven towards their outcome. All right. But they pay the money for that clinical trial. So that's why they are big. But sometimes it is good to go and also look at meta-analyses and small clinical trials. But we know that our drugs have gone through that process. That's why we can script it with confidence. All right, because that's what the outcomes are. And we also know the side effects of the medication, because these have been documented. And that's why we can educate our patients then on indication for treatment.
Exactly. What is semaglutide and why was it originally developed?
I think we need to go back a little bit more, because I have seen the funniest things on Instagram and social media that people are injecting some Gila monster from Mexico into their bodies and all this stuff is going to kill them. And as if, in Mexico, people are running around after Gila monsters to milk them to get
Imagine.
Sema or Bayeta. So actually, the whole process of the molecule, and originally it was Bayeta. That was the original molecule. Actually, has been in research for many years. All right, these are not new molecules. It's been in research for a very long time. And yes, the original molecule was extracted from the Gila monster. All right, so and that was then a drug out of that came called Bayeta, and it was needed to give twice a day. It was didn't have this magic weight loss, but there was improvement in diabetes, and that evolved to a synthetic process. At the same time, some of the companies were making the similar hormone, because we started to understand diabetes a little bit better.
Yes.
We understand what is the incretin hormones and how GLP works, and now we know how GIP works as well. And this then led, after Bayeta, for instance, to a molecule people will know this. It was a daily injection called Victoza. All right. So that also was, and everybody was very excited about Victoza and the weight loss that it brought and improvement in diabetes control. After that sprouted out Sema. So it's the same family of medication, but semaglutide is now what people know as Ozempic, is a weekly injection. So its original use was never for weight loss.
No.
Its original use was for the management of type 2 diabetes, because that is where the burden lies. The burden for complications, the burden on any state health institution is the management of complications with people that are living with diabetes on the state and on the healthcare system, but also on the individual with that problem.
Yes.
Getting chronic renal failure, cardiovascular disease, blindness, amputations, recurrent infections, and sepsis is things that we want to try and limit. And by getting your HbA1c down, the weight was actually this very interesting thing that they saw almost as a side effect
Yes.
of using these drugs, to the point where it's now that everybody wants to have the weight benefit. But that was not its original intent.
No. What about the GLP-1 receptor antagonists, and how does the semaglutide compare to other drugs in a class like tirzepatide?
Semaglutide and tirzepatide are both family of the same group of drugs. Semaglutide or Ozempic is a GLP-1 agonist. So one first needs to understand the physiology of the human body.
Yes. What is the agonist?
An agonist is something that does the same thing as your body. So let's first just talk about what are these hormones. These are hormones that is in your body naturally. When me and you eat food, or we drink a cappuccino, or we have lunch, your body will react in a certain way. Immediately when you start digesting the food, your blood sugar will go up. All right, that is the normal response. Now that blood sugar needs to go somewhere. It has a function. And that function is mitigated with insulin. So the beta cell will react and will produce insulin, and insulin will then shift that glucose into the cells as an active working force to nutrients for the brain, for muscle, for the nervous system, for everything needs energy.
Yes.
All right. Now, GLP-1 gets then pushed up and is a sensor hormone that then helps insulin to be released from the pancreas. But more. Yes, a little bit more. So it activates the beta cells so that it goes up. All right. So this is in a normal patient. We're now talking about normal people. Then at some point you will have satiety. So you're not going to keep eating and keep eating and keep eating until you vomit. Your body will say, okay, listen, we've had enough. That is why GLP-1 receptors are not only in the gut. They are all over your body. You have GLP-1 receptors in your brain. You have GLP-1 receptors in your heart, in your lungs. It's everywhere in your system almost that we can find these GLP-1 and even GIP receptors. Most of them are in the gut, but they are found everywhere. All right. That is why when we start giving the drug, people have this some more intense sense. Remember, an agonist means the same action of satiety. Okay. So because we are giving you more of the thing, it will make you feel fuller quicker. All right.
The thing was there before.
It was there before.
It was doing that specific job.
It was
now we're giving it.
We're giving more of it.
Okay.
All right. So that is why, unfortunately, in obesity and especially in type 2s, this hormone gets blunt because just of the fact that we put those sensors off. They start down regulating. We're not as sensitive. That is the typical thing where it happens with patients as well, is that they will eat a meal. Okay. 15 minutes later, they'll say, ek is lus vir 'n chocolate.
Yeah.
I want something sweet.
Yeah.
Now, where does that come from? Why on earth are you hungry? And why is the brain not mitigating the hormonal process here that needs to happen?
You've had enough.
You've had enough. You need to, jy het nou genoeg gehad. Stop it now.
Yeah.
You're already like 50 kgs overweight. Why do you still want something more? And it's because that hormonal system is not functioning properly. All right.
But why is that?
And that is just one of the processes of diabetes, because just think about it. We eat calorie-dense food, but that are nutritionally useless.
Yes.
All right. So, and if you do that from a very young age, these systems get shut down or get blunted. So you're not as sensitive anymore to them. All right. Now, not everybody is GLP-1 sensitive, and this is what we see with the treatment. So not everybody that uses Ozempic or tirzepatide loses the weight. The diabetes might be better controlled, but not everybody loses this amazing amount of weight.
Okay.
Because not everybody is GLP-1 sensitive.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. So that is why it has a multifactorial effect. Because these GLP-1 receptors everywhere, also it has an effect on the liver, because the liver produces glucose. It has an effect on lipotoxicity. So for instance, the fat distribution, we don't want visceral fat around organs that make the organs fatty liver, fatty pancreas. We want to redistribute. The fat needs to be at the good place, all right, not around the organs. So, and that is why when people start using GLP-1s, it's not only their weight that comes down and sugar, but we also see improvement in cholesterol and blood pressure, cardiovascular health, etc. So it is a multifactorial effect that it does play.
This episode is sponsored by the Waves Group, filling station, convenience store, and boutique. Thank you, Davie and Corlia van Heerden, for this sponsorship of the podcast. If you haven't visited 27 on York Street, Waves Boutique yet here in George, you have to go. All of you in George know that we are very limited when it comes to stores with beautiful clothes. Please go and visit the Waves Boutique. I can promise you, you are going to get something stunning at Corlia's shop. Since when have semaglutide and GLP-1 medications been available, the evidence behind the safety and effectiveness for this period of time?
In South Africa, maybe it's only been a buzzword for the last year. Okay, but that is because it's only been registered here. But if you look 2017, semaglutide already had international registration. So people overseas have been using it already from then.
Yes.
And that is when the clinical studies was done. Tirzepatide only in 2021. So that is a newer molecule, but we need to understand that's a dual agonist. So that's the difference between the two. One is only GLP-1, but tirzepatide is GLP-1 plus GIP. The GIP stands for, it's a glucose dependent. So again, it's glucose dependent. You're eating food,
Yes.
glucose dependent, insulinotropic, all right, hormone.
Okay.
All right. So now that's a polypeptide. But so basically it is just, it depends on food, and then it will do something when you ate that food in the body. We're going to give more of it so that we can get a better response.
Okay.
Right. In someone that needs it. That's why tirzepatide currently in South Africa is only registered for type 2 diabetes and not for weight loss. All right. Whereas Ozempic is for type 2 diabetes, but semaglutide, the molecule, in a couple of months, Wegovy will be registered for weight loss. And that is a different dose. It's 2.4 milligrams. So one needs to understand that, yes, the initial molecule is the same. All right. But there is indication for the use. Yes.
Okay.
So we can't just say, okay, I'm going to just use tirzepatide to lose weight. There needs to be proper indication.
Yeah. Have you been prescribing it before it was a thing now?
Yeah, we've been scripting since Bayeta came out. We scripted these molecules. Obviously, they've always been expensive because it's not something that everybody can afford, even with Victoza. And I think media it's a double-edged sword what media has done. Media has definitely made people more aware of obesity and has sort of made people open to, let's have the conversation. The problem is that there can be a little bit of misinformation that this is like this miracle drug, and if I just use it, I'm going to just lose all this weight, and all is going to be just wonderful. And I think, that is a slippery slope. As long as it's followed up with your doctor or the scripter that knows that, listen, there's a specific indication, then it's good. But we've been using it for quite some time
Now.
Media has just put the spotlight on it.
Yes. Are these medications prescribed too easily today, in your opinion?
Yes and no. I think, unfortunately, we have a regulator. Let's talk about private sector first. Okay, because
the ethical part behind this.
Yeah, so in state, you're not going to get this. If you're a state's patient, you're never going to get your hands on a drug like this. Okay. But in private sector, the regulator, the medical aid, will have a specific criteria that the patient needs to adhere to be able to qualify.
Yes.
All right. This is if you want to get it through medical aid. If the indication is correct. And Ozempic, for instance, semaglutide is only registered for type 2 diabetes. And there's a whole thing that people need to qualify for the drug.
Yes.
All right. And sometimes you don't get it. 99% it will not be paid by medical aid because it's expensive. Tirzepatide even worse, all right, in that sense, because it's newer. If someone comes in and just wants it for weight loss, there is a different conversation that needs to happen. So I think, unfortunately, in the diabetes population, it is not scripted enough. Yeah, because we are not preventing what we should be preventing. For instance, if you have to script 46 Ozempic scripts, all right, to prevent one cardiovascular death, one heart attack. So that is a very good stat to prevent cardiovascular disease. But we don't see it that way because the funder doesn't see. He needs to pay to prevent one. But it's not just that. It is also about the stigma diabetics that are obese live with. They try every single lifestyle modification, every single diet that's been there for the last 20 years as a diabetic, they try. And it's try and fail and try and fail. So, and we saw this happen last year where our diabetic patients could not win, especially when the hype was so high about Ozempic. There was a shortage, okay?
Yeah, nationwide.
Nationwide shortage because people used the drug that should not have used the drug. For what? Weight management. Where someone else is sitting with chronic kidney disease, cardiovascular disease, and actually do need the drug. So that is an unfortunate part of it.
What we do know now and not know yet is the long-term effects of these drugs on the pancreas.
100% correct. We do not have any clinical data for more than 10 years on these drugs. There is certain situations which are contraindicated. So let's quickly run through some of the side effects and issues and concerns people have, because it is there with any drug. Someone needs to take responsibility of scripting that drug. These are not supplements.
No.
And it needs to be clear, it's not a weight loss supplement or a magic weight. This is a scheduled drug with serious side effects. If not given correctly or used by the wrong individual. For instance, if someone is on oral diabetic medication and insulin and then goes on to semaglutide or tirzepatide, the insulin dosing needs to be adjusted. Maybe oral medication needs to be taken away or removed, or dose reduction needs to be done because there's a high risk of hypoglycemia. All right. Now, except for the nausea, that is a transient side effect, people can develop gastrointestinal issues as well. All right. They can get pancreatitis. Diabetes is a risk for pancreatitis, and using this is even another risk. For instance, if they have a history of thyroid cancer or a family history of thyroid cancer, it's not a good indication to use it there. There's a black box warning on this for medullary cancer, and that was only seen in clinical research in rodents, but they still have to mention it. We haven't seen them in humans, but it is still there. All right. So one needs to know these things and make sure that you sort of can educate your patient and precaution them. The same with risk of gallstone, cholecystitis, gallstone. So if they have gallstone issues currently, just don't give it now until this problem is settled. And if there is then any abdominal pain or problems, that is why the physician or the doctor that scripts it needs to follow the patient up at a regular interval to make sure that they are okay. And if there is some of these side effects that pop in, that needs to be managed. There is one big issue that a lot of people ask, and that's the sudden blindness.
Oh.
Yeah, so there is a condition called non-arthritic optic neuropathy that happens in the eye. So this is where the problem comes in. You do not know who you scripted to, what underlying condition they have that is not diagnosed. All right. So now, is it the chicken or the egg?
Yes.
But unfortunately, this we see even with patients that have been long uncontrolled. If you have a very uncontrolled type 1 or type 2 diabetic and you suddenly drop their blood glucose readings, what happens is they develop eye fluid retention and they can develop eye problems. All right. That is why if someone has been uncontrolled for many years, we will slowly bring their blood glucose down over a much longer period of time. All right, to try and prevent that. Vision loss and problems it does dissipate and it does go away, but we have seen, unfortunately, there are a couple of cases mentioned about this problem that happens with Ozempic, and it's the same thing. So they think the possibility could be that during the night, because it's a perfusion problem with the eye, that the blood glucose falls, also their blood pressure comes down during the night, they're on a lot of blood pressure medication, etc. And this has an effect with perfusion to the eye. Now, there is the risk of this, and people need to know that risk. So that is why it's important to measure blood pressure, to make sure my blood pressure is not too low, to make sure also my blood sugar doesn't drop unnecessarily low during night. And that education needs to be done. But diabetes has its complications of eye problems. And this might just potentiate it, again, if not educated correctly.
Okay, so several celebrities, and that's not even internationally, nationwide as well, have admitted to using GLP-1s and flaunting it everywhere, and you see the bikini photos. Do you think this is more harmful? Or is it, and the public perception then of these drugs?
I mean, Oprah's use it, Dr. Phil's use it, Elon Musk's has admitted of using, these drugs. And so I think the awareness of obesity as a chronic condition as well, that is good.
Definitely.
Right. That is very good. I think we need more awareness of diabetes, obesity, metabolic disease, and its risks.
Yes.
All right. But these are elites where cost is not an issue. If you look at some point, if my memory serves correct, Ozempic was $600 a month. Yeah. So compared to what we pay currently.
Yeah.
So these are expensive drugs that are not accessible to everyone.
No.
All right. And then that's where the hype is a little bit of an issue as well. So I think it's not that harm is done. I just think that people must realize that it is not a miracle cure for all their problems. Ozempic is not going to make you eat correctly.
No.
It's not going to change your food habits.
No.
It's not going to make you not drink fizzy drinks or stop eating sugar. No. If that is your issue. It's not going to change you emotionally to not do that. All right. So for the correct indication, for the correct person, yes, I think it can do wonders. But it needs to be individualized. But now say you spend the money and you don't lose the weight, what happens then? Now you're very disappointing and say that this is, because it needs to be individualized. You'll get the respondent, the non-responder. But that's why people should seek professional advice.
Exactly. That's the moral.
That's the moral of the story.
Do you find this increases the number of people asking for the medication that don't medically qualify because of all this celebrity influence?
Yes, for sure. No, there's too many people that want it, again, for the wrong reasons. Because what is perceived as all the good. Okay, but nobody talks about those things then when it does go wrong.
Yes.
All right, and that is where the thing comes in. And as long as there can be an honest discussion with the patient, and they need to weigh up risk versus benefit. It's the same thing about the eye thing. So to give you just in context, it's 1 in 10,000 people that can get this eye complication. That is pretty rare. So to be hit by lightning is 1 in 15,000.
Sure, that's close.
So it's more dangerous to drive in your car from here to home than taking Ozempic and possibly going blind from it. But on the other side, diabetes has its own complications.
On its own, yeah.
Even obesity with undiagnosed. Now, a lot of people are obese, but they are pre-diabetic.
Yes.
So there is just a metabolic disease waiting to happen.
Yes.
It's just a matter of time. So, unfortunately, what I dislike in this regard is those that are already skinny that wants Ozempic to be even skinnier.
That's my next topic. The microdosing. So you see that also everywhere. That's also a trend for brain fog, energy, cardiovascular, people claiming that they have these extra benefits. They are healthy, skinny, and they are microdosing. So is there such a thing as microdosing? And because they make it sound, like you said, it's not a supplement, but as I would take it then for extra supplementation for all these other added benefits.
This is happening. You're 100% correct. It is happening. There is no randomized clinical control trials that advocates what they are saying. So that is the short and sweet answer. This has not been tested. It has not been proven. These are emotional claims.
Exactly. And that's the big difference.
And that's a big difference. Remember, anything can be a placebo or have an emotional effect. And yes, it might help a little bit with something here and something there. But I mean, what is the long-term benefit of this drug versus also now using something? And this is what people forget. You're always upregulating a hormone. Okay, you're upregulating GLP and GIP in your body.
Yes,
okay,
that's the point.
But now you're doing it as a healthy individual. What's going to happen? Something else will downregulate. Because are you going to use this forever in a micro-dosing situation?
Yes.
So what's going to happen in 10 years if you come off the drug? Because now you've given yourself this hormone, or even in 2 or 3 years' time, and you've upregulated it. So now your satiety center will say, well, okay, bud, thanks for that, but I'm going to make you eat. And this is where the danger comes in with this. So yes, it might seem quite innocent in the beginning, but you're using a synthetic hormone. All right. I don't see let's take women, for instance, when they are premenopausal, are not using more hormone to be more female. Except now for males that use testosterone to become their bulky. That's a whole different story. All right. But we're not doing that with other medication.
No.
We're not doing that with blood pressure pills. Oh, yeah, I just want to prevent. I'm going to take like a micro dose of because just to keep my blood pressure, or I'm going to take 3/4 of a cholesterol pill just to. No, we don't do that type of thing.
I think that the saying going around with microdosing, so it sounds cute and innocent, but at the end of the day, like you say, it's a prescription medication and there's no evidence. Moral of the story, there's no evidence that proves that microdosing is actually beneficial.
Yeah.
And in the long run, what is going to happen then if you stop?
And we don't know.
Yeah.
And that's where the thing comes in. We don't even know what long-term effect is. Like I say, 10-year data is lacking. In 2 years' time, we will have 10-year data. Right? We know what the clinical trials say, and they are beautiful clinical trials, but we need to be cautious because it's tested in people with lack of.
Exactly.
All right? So it's unhealthy people that have benefit. If we medicate healthy people with this type of medication, the problem that I have with that is that are we doing the other basics then as well?
Yeah.
Or are we using this, but we're still continuing down the deep frying everything route as well, just to hope that this will fix me, or hope that this will prevent me from getting a cardiovascular event or whatever. So, it's a slippery slope. For me, that is a no-no at this point in time. There's when there is randomized clinical control trials that really justify it. But you just need one patient of a healthy group to get paralytic ileus in their gut, where the gut goes and just shuts down. You just need them to have it once, and then they will not do it again. You understand? So it's everything like.
You can see the ladies. Well, it feels to me mostly like the women that you've seen for 2-3 months, you haven't seen, and then you see them all of a sudden, you're like, whoa, you are like a quarter of what I've seen you in just 2 months' time. And then they have that typical
There's a big
wasting.
face, So because they get sarcopenia, so this is the other side effect we haven't even talked about. So sarcopenia is one of the issues with GLP-1s. If you use semaglutide, let's say you lose 15 kgs, right? Just argumentatively, all right? Let's say 9 of that is fat, right?
Yes.
If you could weigh it, you're going to lose 6 kgs of muscle mass, all right? So you're losing muscle mass. Now, there's a lot of people that argumentatively say, but if you are lighter, you're not going to need so much muscle to move you around. But and because you lose a little bit of lean muscle mass, even if you go on, like a food diet, right?
Yes.
But this is beside the point. The thing is that you're losing more than what the body actually would normally lose. And now you're having skinny, beautiful, maybe looking, weak people, all right? So, and that is where the issue comes in.
Exactly.
All right. Now, that is why we advocate if someone uses Ozempic or tirzepatide, they need to do weight training.
Definitely.
Weight training is the basis. People need to pick up heavy stuff, and they need to sweat. They need to do the physical work with this drug, so they can use it. Yeah, and they must eat protein, and they must eat no carb.
No carb.
No carb, preferably no carb or low carb foods, because the carbohydrates is what drives the metabolic disease. But that is a whole different discussion if we go down the food route.
Ons sal hom nog doen. We'll tackle that one. Okay, now the big one. Menopause and moving into perimenopause and menopause, because in my practice, I see that a lot with the women and clients of mine that have come with me for the past 11 years that I can see has picked up 15 kilograms and so forth. And they've always been healthy. They've always, or relatively healthy. If I take myself, for instance, I'm 38. If I have to go now, my mom was very early with her perimenopause and moving into that. As ek nou binne die volgende 5 jaar 15 kilos gaan optel, gaan ek nie dink is snaaks nie. So when is the fine line? I've always been relatively healthy, exercise, diet, drink wine, maar can I use it for a period of time to lose my 15 kilograms or more that I've picked up and stop?
Let's ask another question. Why is it difficult to accept biology? Why is it so difficult for us now? It never was, but now it is difficult to accept the natural progression of basic biology, basic physiology. And why is it that we have this apprehension that we do not want to go into that phase of our life? Are you only asking the question now? You did not ask this at the age of 18 or 26. But now you ask that question. Do you understand?
Yes, what you say, yeah.
All right. So hoekom now? Why is it that we have that obsession now? So here's the one thing. You cannot change nature.
No.
All right? This process is going to happen, whether you like it or not. You might not gain 15 kgs, but all females at some point, all right, true females, will be faced, if lucky, by God's grace, and they get to that age with menopause. All right, whether they've had the hysterectomy at a much younger age or not, but they will be faced with that. So now either you're going to accept the fact that my body is changing,
but
so that's the question. Why do we not want to accept the natural process of biology. And that's where the problem lies. It is because we have now vilified something that is natural because of. Do you understand where I'm going with
Yes,
this?
I
Because
understand.
if one accepts that my body is changing, all right, then it's easier to say that, okay, I understand that I'm changing. If I do gain weight, it's because estrogen, my LH and FSH is just dropping and it's changing, and estrogen is going lower and lower. And now I'm not menstruating anymore. So I don't hear that women moan about that part a lot, that they're not menstruating. They're actually like,
No, we'll never moan about that.
exactly, but they don't want the weight gain.
No.
All right. So do you understand what I'm going with this?
But with that, there's a whole list of other signs and symptoms
There are
that goes with
that. But you
losing my mind. I want to murder someone on a daily basis. And on top of that, now I'm getting,
sure, but that is part of
ach nee, job.
it is part of it. So we can it is how that's how we are made. And again, you can medicate that. But it's
Can
not-
I?
No, but,
Can I do it?
but you can
For 6
medicate.
months and then stop.
But let's think about it. Do that. So you tell me, you're going to medicate yourself. You're 50. Maybe you gain some weight. You're going to medicate with, let's say, one of these wonderful drugs for 6 months. After the 6 months, is your estrogen going to be normal?
No, but I'm
Okay.
going to feel lekker.
You're going to feel lekker, and then is the estrogen is not normal. So the weight's going to come back.
No, but for the estrogen, I'll go,
Sure, you're going to maybe get a supplement,
Yes.
right, with a gynecologist and have discussion about hormone replacement therapy. Okay. But it still doesn't change what's happening physiologically.
yeah.
Your metabolism gets slower. So what should women actually be focusing on in that period of their life? Think about it. What should they be doing?
Probably more weight training,
Uh-huh.
resistance
So
training.
now we're getting to that. Yes. So they should be picking up heavy stuff. But not only then, you should be picking up heavy stuff
Yeah.
now.
How about I do it now? So dis hoekom I'm
Yeah, but dis hoekom ek sê. So that is where the difference becomes, where we see with our grands how they looked, all right, and mums, and then what is happening to the newer generation that goes into that. So they are trying. They are working out a little bit more. They are trying to prepare for that phase. And that is where your mentality needs to be. That, listen, this is going to happen in the next 5 years. All right. What I can do is what I can do now.
Yes.
I can't stop it.
No. I
Okay.
agree.
I will be able to maybe medicate it a little bit. All right. But I won't stop it. So if I eat more protein, if I do pick up heavy stuff, and I don't mean heavy stuff. I don't mean like
Yeah, no,
a 1 kilogram little
dumbbell.
chino copy. Nee?
Yeah, serious stuff.
Serious stuff. Muscle is the currency of old people. The more quad strength is literally, the stronger your quads, the longer you'll live.
Definitely.
All right. The bigger your calves, the better you'll do. And I mean not flabby calves. I mean like muscle calves. If people still do racket sports, they live much longer than those that don't do any of those. Why? Because there's coordination, there is muscle mass. So that is the currency of someone that's old. The same with like if you squats.
Yes.
Okay.
Basic squats.
Basic squats. All right.
Yes.
So it doesn't help we complain about it, because this is what happens. We want that quick fix, to fix something that takes hard work. So you want the 6 months, you get the shot, you're going to lose the weight, and then you're going to need to continue. And this is the thing with Ozempic, tirzepatide, when the new ones comes out, Wegovy as well. People need to ask themselves the question that, how long am I going to be on this drug? Is it lifelong? So that's the thing. Is it lifelong? Like for a type 2 diabetic,
It's lifelong.
it's lifelong.
And
Right.
for an obesity patient, it's lifelong.
It's life. So that's an issue. In my opinion, if you're going to use a drug, all right, lifelong for 30, 40 years, but you never get to the point where you change your internal governor, where you start working. The drug is not going to make you more physically active.
No.
It's not going to make you,
Not reach the burger.
Exactly. So, and that is the thing with menopause as well. So you supplement your hormones.
Mm.
Now you're using Ozempic, and maybe 6 months you'll lose a little bit of weight, but it's going to come back. So literally 2/3 of all patients that stop Ozempic after a 2-year period gain all the way back.
Was it because of that they didn't make lifestyle changes with that while they were on the Ozempic, or is it because of the stop of the Ozempic itself?
It stopped off the Ozempic itself because people will rebound back to their old way. If that is
Okay.
not, so think about it. The drug suppresses satiety. Let's just work on the satiety part.
Mm.
Okay, now you fuller quicker.
Yeah, let's explain that also. What does the drug do? It makes you fuller, quicker.
So it makes you fuller quicker, all right? So your gastric emptying is slower. That's also where that comes in. And that's why they're so nauseous in the beginning, right? Which goes away after like 2 to 4 weeks. Then, so the gastric, the stomach empties slower, food stays in there a little bit longer. The satiety center in the brain gets, so you just feel fuller quicker. So that satiety center is being worked on. All right, you're not as hungry. And then all the other metabolic processes is either in the pancreas, in the muscle, and in the liver. All right, where it then also those GLP-1 receptors then help with regulating blood glucose.
Okay.
All right, but those things. So now, if I now bring that hormone back, remember, I have given you more of something that suppresses. Now I take it away. Okay, what will your body, do you think, in the beginning do? Because you have now withheld something.
No, it's gonna
It's going to just
go
say,
haywire.
okay, listen, wow, okay, she's going to do this again. And here is where I think we have forgotten a little bit of why are we sitting here? Why do we have these fancy chairs? Why do we have Ozempic? Why do we have electricity? Because our forefathers genetically sacrificed, went through famine. Those genes are much older, all right, than what our success, let me use that term, in the Western society is of, having too much of everything. Access to food much easier, access to everything much easier. And we don't have to really sweat for this in the true sense of physical labor. Yes, there are physical laborers, but none of the physical laborers are going to come to you and say, listen, I would like to have some Ozempic.
No.
Okay, because they are ripped anyway, because they are manual laborers.
Yes.
All right. So, and that genetics of survival for periods of famine is written in us. So the body will go, oh, nice one. Okay. If she does this again, we need to prepare. So so a lot of people do lose, they keep the weight off. That I've seen. All right. They stop Ozempic or they stop the GLP-1 and they can maintain their weight because they did something and they are used to eating smaller sizes. They are used to, so the body says, okay, this is good for us. But then I've seen the flip side of that as well. And people regain all the weight because there is this internal thing also where the body will say that, okay, whoa, okay, now we need to maybe, so like peptide YY, there's a lot of other hormones that play also a role. Ghrelin is one of them, leptin is one of them. So it's not only we're switching off one, but there's others that will always upregulate or downregulate. That's where the thing comes in. So it's not just in isolation. The human body is too complex for that.
And that's what the everyday person don't realize.
Don't realize, yeah, unfortunately, yeah.
But not realize. I think the education part from hopefully a doctor where you get your medication from, I don't think normally explains it that well.
Yeah, I think the thing is that it's if someone comes in and wants something, and then sometimes tell you, listen, if you don't give it, I'm going to go somewhere else.
Yeah, that's true.
Then what happens? They just script it and then go over the basics and people use it. And that lesson then is learned through experience by the user of the drug. Then they learn that, oh, okay, wow, I can use small doses, maybe, let's say semaglutide 0.25. I'm fine with that, and I can lose weight, and I can maintain my weight on the lowest dose. Or listen, it doesn't work. I need to use the 1 milligram, and at that, I'm actually doing better. That is why there is this range of doses in all these drugs as well, because some people can lose a lot of weight in the lowest, and others need at the highest dose. So,
is it true that I've heard this on a different podcast, but saying that if you use it for a certain period of time, I think it is 6 months, or that's what I don't know if it's a marketing tool, that your brain now, you must give your body and your brain the chance to get used to the new normal weight. And that is why you should use it for 6 months plus if you are like a type 2 diabetic patient, to get for the connection. Is that true?
yeah, so this yes, there is this process that happens where there is a brain body, let's say, weight adjustment, that it stabilizes at a specific weight. But that is a period of time that it takes. For some it's 6 months, and for some it's 3 years.
Yes.
All right. That you need to stick at a specific weight for that period of time for the body to say, okay, but this is my new weight, and I am happy at this metabolic state.
Okay.
All right. And that is very individualized. That's why I always tell patients that 6 months is a good trial to see if you are a responder to GLP-1. Are you GLP-1 sensitive? Okay. 6 months. If you don't, let's say it's only for weight loss. In the diabetics, maybe a little bit different, but because the HbA1c, if it comes down and they haven't lost the weight, we are happy because there's other benefits happening in the background, right? Kidney, cardiovascular, etc. But let's say purely for weight loss in that context, then 6 months, and if you have not lost weight in this period of time, all right, which equates to clinical trial weight loss,
yes,
then you're wasting your money. You are not a responder. Okay.
So it's not a case of then the medication should be switched to a different.
Well, you can maybe go from to the dual agonist, from the GLP-1 to the GIP to tirzepatide. You can, and try that again for maybe 3 months or 6 months period. But the minimum would be 6 months to see if you're responding to the medication.
Okay.
All right. But then continue for at least, try 2 to 3 years, so that the set point of weight, that's what we call it, the set point of weight is then set.
Your new normal.
Because where the body is saying, okay, this is good. We can, this works.
This. Okay. Safety and illegal sales. Oh my goodness.
Ja.
Daar's 'n tannie op 'n Facebook groepie. That is unreal to me. And I know a lot of people that I've purchased from Facebook and a WhatsApp group, and it says, a scheduled prescription medication, and people don't understand the implications behind that.
Yeah, so I think this is one of the issues that media has caused.
Definitely.
All right. So I think this is some of the damage, because just go and get this easy drug. You're going to lose so much weight. It's so quick. And if you go onto Google and you actually Google to buy it, you can buy it on the weirdest sites.
Yes.
But the problem with that is number one, those drugs do not have a batch number. They have not been checked randomly to make sure that it is good quality control. And you do not know what's in it.
No.
So we have tested some of these fake Ozempics, right? Some of them contain ridiculous doses, all right, of semaglutide. Completely.
But where did they find it?
So the thing is that some compound pharmacies get maybe raw product somewhere. Where those people get the raw product, I do not know, but they reverse engineer the product. Okay, so they reverse engineer it, and then they come up with this cocktail. But this is dangerous. This is really dangerous because there are we've had some cases of serious side effects that needed ICU admission because of these drugs, and also the what we call the cold chain, the production chain. You do not know if that is actually well managed.
Yeah.
So you are injecting something that you do not even know if that is what you should be injecting is in the injection, because some of them even contained insulin. So insulin. So in some of these products that we tested, and unfortunately, and this is also something I just want to sort of warn our listeners too, that some people I have seen mix semaglutide and tirzepatide. They go and combine them. Now, this is illegal.
In South Africa? Or
anywhere.
Anywhere.
This is not done. This is not done. Because there is no clinical trial that has used that amount or doses of these drugs in combination from two different pharmaceutical companies. It's not even the same company that makes them. All right? The one comes from Eli Lilly, the other one comes from Novo Nordisk. Now you're taking two different drugs and you're just throwing them together and pumping them into a patient. All right. I mean, that is like, in my opinion, I'm going to use the word, it is criminal.
It is. And that's what the listeners but people are so desperate, I think, and they've heard about a friend that lost this amount of weight, but exactly like that, you've said, two different ingredients from two different companies, pit pompies in the middle that it gekry, and you put it together and now
distributing it. So but the onus of this is on the individual that uses it. All right. So it's their responsibility to make sure that what they are using and what they are getting is a scripted drug from a medical professional, getting it at a legitimate pharmacy, and it is the original. That is, the patent, for instance, has not expired of these drugs. So if a patent has not expired, how on earth can you get something that is a knockoff? So there's just red flags all over. And people need to be very wary of this. And it's not that the industry doesn't want them to get the drugs, and now they pay it's quite expensive also for those fake Ozempics, So you do it the right way or you don't do it at all.
I love going to Waves Boutique because you will definitely find something unique there. And there's always something different, especially if you want something for a special occasion or for every day. And I will highly recommend their shop because it is different than the others. If someone is listening right now and they are considering semaglutide or any of the others, or are actually on it already, what is the question they should ask themselves? Ek dink hier is nou meer gemik on just the general person.
So sê in Afrikaans, het hulle tot kosbekering gekom?
Seker nog nie.
Right. So this is so that's the first question. All right. Have they done the work? All right. At least that lifestyle modification that needs to happen as either a diabetic or someone that has a weight problem, have you dealt with that? All right, because obviously this drug helps you to lose weight. It does give you some confidence, again, to maybe start walking and you couldn't walk because you couldn't tie your shoelaces because your belly was in the way. There are so many good stories that I've heard from patients that, that it's always the best if the old men say, listen, ek kon hom weer sien. Jy weet, alle jare, hy is nog daar. So these are some of they are out of that part, the psychosomatic part of it. But there's also a reason why we eat unintentionally.
The emotional
eating. Has one dealt with all those things? That food is not your reward, but food is seen as a necessity. Do you make healthy choices? or do you still go and just get the quick fix? So these are the things that, in my opinion, needs to go hand in hand with using a GLP-1 GIP, these meds, is work through that process, that when you are faced that you cannot get the drug anymore, or something happens in the future, or there are so many new ones that's going to come out. These that will make these look like the old Bayeta and Toza. But again, is the work being done that is underlying maybe the precipitator for weight gain and etc.
What is your hope, if we go back to diabetes specifically, because I know that's close to your heart, for the future for diabetes and the treatment of in South Africa specifically?
So that's a twofold answer. From the public sector, for me, there's lack of education, and prevention is much better than cure. We always treated more complications in the public sector than what we prevented any problem. It's reactive medicine. Someone comes in and they've got a septic foot. Now we need to amputate. But there is not invested in trying to prevent and educate. And, we have in our country one of the best HIV TB systems for managing that. And the diabetes fraternity could learn so much from that, because this is what is needed. You need that same attention to a chronic metabolic disease that currently is ripping through the world. And with that comes cancer, because it is one of the biggest risks and drivers for cancer as well. Alzheimer's, type 3 diabetes, links as well, dementia, vascular dementia, all these things are linked with that. And for me, if we want to make a big impact, it's not just getting new drugs. Yes, the drugs will always be needed for those that are ill and need them. But can we drive earlier detection of our diabetics and screening? All right. Proper education. Can we all agree at least on something?
Exactly.
All right. Because currently, if you're going to ask, people will all have a different idea on what one should eat and should not eat. This is fine and that's not fine. So individualized medicine, it needs to be individualized. Yes. We are not all the same.
No.
And early prevention and detection, I think, will have the biggest impact on the long term. In the private sector, yes, it's upscaling. It is, the funders are slowly seeing the benefits of these medications, but I think in a rushed world as we are now, with so much pressure, and I think also in every fraternity there is, and this is the thing with social media, is comparison. I think our biggest thing in the public sector is everybody wants to look like a copy of someone else. And that gets lost, unfortunately. All right. Where the individual maybe needs something and that one does not. And that's a whole big other thing to try and tackle. But for me, is if we can prevent, that is why drugs like GLP-1 GIPs need to be initiated earlier. We can't wait, all right, for someone to get a heart attack to put them on the drug. That doesn't make sense.
No.
Okay, what's the point then? So that proper education campaigns can be run in educating this, and do it through the correct channels. And yeah, maybe eventually these drugs will become cheaper. That I do not know, but currently they are pricey. But so was statins in the beginning.
Yes.
Cholesterol medication many years ago were also extremely expensive. And as time progressed, they became much cheaper. But time will tell. Right? But it is dependent on the listener. Okay? The diabetic lives his own diabetic life. The doctor does not live your diabetic life for you. All right? Nor does the nurse live that life for the individual with the chronic disease. You need to make the choice what you put in your mouth. You need to make sure that you go for that walk if you still can walk. You got those 2 legs, you can walk. And if you can't walk, you do something with your arms. And if your arms don't work, you move your head, but move something. You know? It's moet beweeg.
But I feel you when it comes back to the public sector. I remember when I was still doing my conserve years but mine was specifically in clinic. And it was sad back then, the educational part. There's a I don't know now because that was many moons ago, but there's a big for the public sector to understand diabetes and understand going home and understand that daar gaan iets gebeur as jy nie aandag gee nie.
Oh. But exactly, our South African statistics are actually scary. That comes from the WHO. Yeah, if you look at the rate of obesity and even the predictions that they have for obesity in South Africa, will almost reach up to the 45% in the next couple of years. All right. So, which means that, what does it mean? It means that, yes, legislation, for instance, sugar tax, it's not really having the impact that it should have. All right. Maybe a little bit of an impact, but again, we are only reactive. But also there is something called the human condition. All right. People will still do what people want to do, even if it's wrong. Even if they know what not to do, they will still do it. So, yeah, that's why we need to just take every case step by step. And then, I think the education at state level is always something that they can, improve on. But I think they have tried over many years. But again, it's accessibility.
Yes, that's the difference.
That's the difference. It's accessibility. Accessibility to all modern drugs, accessibility to all the modern insulins, and then also the patient's accessibility. All right. It's easy to say, listen, let's just all eat low carb, all right, from Woolworths, carb clever muesli and carb clever this, and it's a carb clever salad, all right. But for the general person that maybe staple food is maize,
exactly,
you can't have that discussion with. So that is a whole different thing that one needs to look at in regards to tackling that, a very complex and a very dynamic problem, but that can be individualized. So you see, the thing is that refined sugar, nobody needs refined sugar.
Nobody.
There's no reason why anybody needs refined sugar. No one can tell me, oh, I need it because of this or that. No, there's no reason that you need it. Okay? Because we do consume things that we don't need. We consume rice as if we're Chinese, but we're not. Those that are Chinese and Japanese, you guys can have your rice, no problem.
Well,
okay. But why are you eating potatoes?
No.
Okay. All right. You're not German. Why are you doing that now all of a sudden? Do you understand? So I think we have just brought everything into one big batch, and we just over-consume the wrong things that are available, forgetting our natural genetic predisposition of what our ancestors ate.
Yes.
And if you look at research, the best diets that had the best results, cardiovascular, weight-related, longevity, was if people ate the way that their predecessors ate. But now we've forgotten.
Exactly. Ek kon net vra, wat was dit?
So
was nie 'n wortel nie.
So predecessors ate. So but you can see this in for instance, the Incas in Greenland. They, for instance, those that still live in those very rural situations and maybe eat seal meat, that's all they eat. And they've got limited access to fresh fruit and veg, limited. As soon as they move to a Western society where they go from very low cardiovascular risk and diabetes, they all fall into the cardiovascular and diabetes risk. And this is what's seen. So again, if in your genetic system, you have been adopted over many years to eat a specific way, And then all of a sudden that falls away. And now you get exposed to refined sugar, junk food, highly processed food that are not nutrient dense. I mean, it leads to metabolic disease. So, but yeah, it depends on who is the driver, who's moving the pen, to what end.
Yes.
That unfortunately has a big impact on each and every individual. So I think we need to go and just sit as, each and every one and think a little bit. Do I really need refined carbs for breakfast in the form of porridge or whatever? Do I need again at one a sugar beverage and a carb? It's like I was back at school. Do you really need it? You're not going to play rugby now at 2 and 3 for 2 hours or netball,
Yes.
or do a sport to burn that off. And then tonight have a big meal again with carbs. Do we really need that much food? Because we don't have an imminent famine waiting. So the body will always store what it doesn't need. And this is all born out of that. It's born out of the First and Second World War. It's born, everything, the food pyramid is born out of a necessity of food shortage.
Yes.
Now we don't have that in its true sense, okay? But we still make choices that are emotional, that like lekker.
Ja. En dis maklik en vinnig.
So daai is die
Dis die
probleem, né?
probleem. You have your Cycle for Diabetes initiative also. Yeah, what do you call it? Dit is a
Dis 'n non-profit.
non-profit.
But that's been running for from 2007. So initially it started just to provide analog insulin, and that time that was not available on state code, to type 1 diabetes, and also it was to drive the awareness of diabetes and lifestyle. So that's our main aim. The main aim is that if you there was a beautiful paper published in 2023 about 51% of patients with type 2 diabetes can reverse their diabetes, medication free, on low carb lifestyle, okay, and physical activity. So that's weight training and some form of cardiovascular exercise. So, and so many people are testimonies to this. And even for the type 1 groups, all right, they have better glucose control.
Yes.
If they exercise more, if you have more muscle mass, you are more insulin sensitive. It is just one of those things. And physical activity is part of that. All right. Yes, we drive everywhere. We drive through McDonald's and don't even get out and go through fast food outlets. And when we don't walk or ride our bikes anymore. In some cities in Europe, this is getting back. They are walking, they are cycling.
Yes.
And sort of this is our initiative, is that awareness. Number one, that type 1s do not have to live fearful.
Yes.
They can do any sport, anything that they want. There's nothing that can keep them back. All right. They can cycle, they can do endurance sport, they can do contact sport even. There's no reason that a type 1 cannot do that. And then the other side for the type 2s, it is get active, get moving.
Yes.
Start doing something. Don't be that couch potato that is procrastinating all the time and just saying later, I'll do it later, I'll do it later. But start moving. And there's reversibility in that for a lot of people by losing the weight and maintaining. You see, that's maintaining weight loss is the other thing.
Yes.
It's not rebounding back. And it's also good for mental health.
Definitely. No, if I don't exercise, I'm not lekker.
Not lekker.
Kom ons sluit af with a few myths or not. GLP-1s are just for the lazy who don't want to do the work, diet and exercise.
No.
It does destroy your muscle.
No, not destroy.
No, not destroy. Jy moet hom net maintain. Dr. Jacques, I really appreciate it. I think we can sit and chat about this one as my lekker. Because this is such a hot topic. But thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. I think at some point we're going to have to do a second round. As jy tyd het, so tussen deur die fondsruim.
Oh, no, it's good. It's good.
But thank you for your knowledge.
Pleasure.
And yeah, that was why I wanted to ask you, because I know, like you said, 17 years that you've been, this is your thing.
Yes.
But I still think we need to touch, I'm not done with the perimenopause section yet. But we'll do that on a
Oh,
second
yeah.
round.
Yes, I
Shame. But thank you
No,
very
it's
much
good.
for your
It's good.
time
A
and for your
pleasure.
knowledge.
Thank you.
Dr.
Thanks for having me.